Welcome to Good Neighbor Training. This presentation is one of 6 that you will be required to listen to and understand prior to moving into housing with supportive services through Charlotte Family Housing. At the end of this presentation, you will take a quiz to demonstrate your understanding of the material presented here. In the last module, we talked about affordability and finding a neighborhood that fits your family's needs. In this module, we will talk about finding a home within the area of town where you have decided to live. There are a number of factors to consider when choosing a home. They include the size and number of bedrooms, the utilities that serve the home, and whether you pay for them directly, reimburse your landlord, or whether they are included in the rent. How energy efficient the home is, the appearance of the home, the age and condition of the home. Noise levels, both the ambient levels of noise from the neighborhood and how noisy your family is. Would you be disruptive to neighbors if you lived in an apartment? Would having people living adjacent to you be bothersome to you? And the opposite is true. Many people are more comfortable in an apartment or a townhome with others around and would feel isolated or uncomfortable in a single-family home. The safety and security of the area. Please remember, we live in a city, and no one can guarantee your safety. Ultimately, it is up to you to take steps to keep your family and belongings secure. Parking, neighborhood, and pet restrictions. In the coming slides, we will begin to talk about these factors in more depth. HUD sets caps on the number of people who can live in a rental unit. In a nutshell, the standard is 2 heartbeats per bedroom. So that means no more than 2 people in a 1-bedroom, 4 people in a 2-bedroom, 6 people in a 3-bedroom, and 8 people in a 4-bedroom. The standard is silent on ages and/or genders of the occupants. If you have children who are far apart in age, different genders, or simply don't get along, we have some suggestions on ways to divide shared bedrooms so that kids feel they have their own space, and we'll be happy to share them with you individually. Another thing to think about is not only the number of bedrooms, but also the actual size of the home. While you want enough space for your family to be comfortable, be wary of renting a home that is bigger than you actually need. The reason for this is that when you heat and cool your home, you are paying to heat all the cubic feet of empty space. So if you have extra rooms or very little furniture in a large space, your utilities will be unusually high. You may find that if one or more of these utilities is included in the rent, or if you have a newer home, your rent payment may go up as the utility estimate will go down. Please remember that it is a requirement of the lease agreement and of the subsidy that your utilities remain on at all times. Not having utility service can cause significant damage to a home. When you and your social worker discuss your budget in your meetings, make sure that you are accurately recording your actual utility expenses. You will be able to weed out housing that won't pass inspection pretty quickly. When you go, look for some basic visual clues, such as fresh paint, doors and windows that are secure and watertight, and a structure that is generally in good shape. You'll also remember from the last module that it is a good idea to make sure that the bushes and trees are cut back from the house so an intruder couldn't hide behind them, and that there is adequate lighting for when you come home at night. Before we can provide a subsidy, the home must pass an inspection. The inspection is named a Housing Quality Standards inspection, but is also commonly known as a Section 8 inspection. The inspection covers 5 areas: mechanical, the heating and air conditioning; structural, to make sure that the roof, walls, and foundation are in good condition; electrical, making sure that the electrical systems are safe; plumbing, making sure that there are no leaks or blockages; life safety, making sure that the home has smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, as well as doors and windows that open and stay open so that you could escape in the event of a fire. Just a note here. Sometimes people nail their windows shut to keep out intruders. This practice is unsafe. Windows need to open so that you could escape in the event of an emergency. I think you will agree that there really isn't an area on this list that you'd want to compromise on. Most quality landlords look for these things as they prepare a home for a new renter and are willing to have an inspector come in. Just a few more things to think about before you select your home. Noise level. Is the neighborhood too noisy or pleasantly active? Safety and security. We talked about this in earlier slides. Parking and distance from the bus stop. Make sure that there is parking available at the times you would be coming home. Just because there's plenty of parking when you drive by in the middle of the afternoon doesn't mean there's plenty of parking when you get off work from a second shift job. Make sure you go to look at the home at times of day when you would be there. If you commute by bus, make sure that the home is walking distance from the bus stop and that you are comfortable walking the route at the times of day you would be coming home. Once you have found a home that meets your family's needs, your application has been approved, and the home has passed inspection, it will be time to sign a lease. The lease is a contract between you and the landlord. On this slide, we will talk about several things you will want to know and understand prior to signing the lease. Number 1, is renter's insurance required? All families receiving a CFH subsidy or supportive services are required to obtain and maintain renter's insurance. Many landlords require renter's insurance, but some only suggest that tenants get it. That said, renter's insurance is one of the least expensive and most valuable types of insurance you can have. Renter's insurance does two things. It protects your belongings in the event of a disaster, such as a fire or a flood. The landlord's insurance only covers the building, not your stuff, even if the disaster isn't your fault. Imagine if a burst pipe flooded your apartment and everything you had was ruined. The landlord isn't required to replace your belongings. He's only required to repair the building itself. It covers you if the damage is caused by you. Most fires and floods in a home are due to something the people living there did. A burning candle, a grease fire, an overflowing sink. All accidents, but all the tenant's fault. Not only are you responsible for the damage to your apartment, but to the neighboring apartments if water or smoke damaged them as well. The landlord will make the repairs, but will come to you for the money. We recently had a CFH client overflow her sink, causing $1,600 in damage to the flooring in the home. Luckily, it was a first-floor apartment. Now, not only are you inconvenienced by a disaster in your home, but you have a huge bill that you cannot pay, and usually the landlord will go ahead and terminate the lease. Now you have a huge debt, damaged belongings, and nowhere to live. Renter's insurance costs about $10 a month, or $120 for the year. Many landlords really like the fact that they know CFH families are required to carry renter's insurance and see it as a benefit to working with you and with us. Another thing to understand is what happens at the end of the lease. A lease is a contract for a specific period of time. At the end, you may have the option to renew for another year, to go month to month, or the lease may automatically renew for another year. We will keep a copy of your lease in our files, and will help you to remember to make arrangements toward the end of your lease. At some point, you will move out of the home and terminate the lease. No matter what, you cannot simply turn in keys and move out. Generally, there is what is called a notice period. Either you need to let the landlord know in writing that you will be moving out 30 or 60 days in the future, or the landlord has to tell you that he wants you to move out 30 or 60 days in the future. Check your lease to see whether you're required to give a 30-day notice or a 60-day notice. Please note that in the event of a major lease violation, the landlord does have the right to terminate the lease with less than 30 days notice. We will also review the lease to make sure that it complies with North Carolina landlord-tenant laws and will attend the lease orientation with you. Okay, that last slide was a doozy. Many leases are 7, 8, or 9 pages long. Some have 2 columns of print, and many are written in a font that's too small to read, even if you did bother to read the entire thing. Most of the really important information is on the first or second page of the lease, and you need to make sure that all of these things are what you agreed to. The security deposit. The landlord will hold on to your deposit and will return it after you move out, providing you fulfilled all the terms of the lease. This includes taking everything out of the home when you move out, not just the things you want or that fit in your new place. It means everything. Often, people will fail to pay the last month's rent, assuming that the landlord can use the security deposit. He cannot. Law forbids the landlord to touch your deposit until after you have moved out. So even if you have given a proper notice that you will be moving, but don't pay the final month's rent, they have to file for eviction. The landlord must keep your deposit in an escrow account. This means that it is kept separate from all other money and can't be touched. Although the lease says that normal wear and tear is okay, you must clean the apartment when you move out and leave it in the condition that you found it. If there are stains on the carpet, trash left in the home, or other damages, they will charge you for those repairs. As the tenant is required to keep the home clean, stains, dirt, trash, and damage are not considered normal wear and tear. Generally, the landlord will be responsible for repairs and the tenant for regular maintenance, such as cleaning and using the appliances and plumbing in the proper way. In Charlotte, it is common that the tenants in a house will be responsible for yard maintenance and maintaining the gutters. If you think you want a house for your family, really think about whether you have access to a lawnmower and whether you have time to maintain the yard. Also think about whether you're comfortable getting up on a ladder or the roof to clean the gutters. You or the landlord may not amend the lease. This is for your protection. The lease and supporting documents are the entire agreement, and the landlord cannot ask you to sign a separate agreement for additional money. If you are unsure of something, please contact your Housing Resource Coordinator for clarification. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. We hope that you have found this information to be valuable and that you are already thinking about your family's wants and needs in a new home.